trust him that it's recording, right?
Yeah, I guess.
He knows how to work a phone. All right, what is this episode? What's up, guys? This is episode 13. Close Encounters of the Funny Kind.
Lucky.
We got a good topic for today. The granddaddy of them all.
I may be taking breaks and going into the other room, but
You're going to take breaks? You're going to leave me?
I'm not in a very serious mood.
Okay. Well, you're never really in a serious mood. But...
Well, I'm really not in a very serious mood tonight. So.
All right. Well, if she gets up and leaves, just know it wasn't me that did it. All right. We got another one. Sam is on a Veterans United kick, the local Jacksonville brand. So.
Well, I mean, how can you not buy a beer that's called Wacky Badger?
Wacky Badger. Whatever that means. It's a hazy IPA.
Like I've already drank one.
Yeah, Sam tasted early.
I haven't tasted a beer of theirs that I don't like.
6.9%. So this is a little bit more than the other one that we had last week.
The Raging Blonde.
Ooh. All right. I got a little taste there. This is stronger.
My dad tasted it when he was here today, and he said it reminded him of the beer. Oh my God, these damn flies. Will you please buy the damn fly traps tomorrow?
Sure. I'll get on that.
Kill all of them. Murder all the flies.
You can thank our children for leaving the door open every time they go outside. There he goes. Yeah. Oh, I got him.
No, you didn't. You just flew that way.
Well, I got a piece of him.
PC.
All right. So this is, you guys know my deal. Usually when it's a little bit murky, I don't love it as much.
If it looks like iced tea, there's definitely gators.
It looks like somebody has poured me some orange juice here, but let's
What
give
orange juice are you drinking? I'm going to go ahead and say that's expired orange juice.
it.
It's apple cider.
Sure. Okay. Whatever. Smells good. It's definitely stronger. It's got that IPA taste, but it's still good. I'm warming up to them, honestly. This is more.
I feel like we went hard in the beginning on them.
We went into like the deep end,
And
like
now
the 8%ers.
we're sloping, and then we're slowly going.
Well, I feel like it's the alcohol, because this is 6.9% and the one last week was 5.2. I feel like, and that's the rule of thumb, like the higher the alcohol content is, the stronger and more bitter the taste is. So those that are like 12%, 13%, they're not for me personally. Already. Did you drink that whole thing?
I don't want to burp tonight.
Okay, let's give that a try. Maybe you want me to get you a bottle of water?
I feel like water would make me burp too.
Alright.
But no, I didn't drink the whole can. I drank the whole cup. God.
Okay.
It's like a 6-ouncer. It's the only Veterans United mug I have because...
We're never going to hear the end of me breaking this glass. I don't even remember breaking that.
Yeah, you cracked it right down the side, bro. Just...
It must have been a good karate chop.
Just curious if you can all comment at some point while watching this, if you watch it, if you see what's over my right shoulder.
Oh my God.
Halloween in July.
So far away. It's not even remotely close to
I bought
Halloween.
Halloween decorations today.
It's exhausting. It's so early.
I have a cart on Target that has $200 worth of the decorations, and then I have another cart, like saved items on Amazon, that I have no idea how much it actually totals. If I total it all, I may have to mortgage the house.
To be clear, we have a lot of Halloween decorations. This isn't like something where...
It's not like I'm starting from scratch.
Right. Like we didn't just move here or we just got married. There are a ton of Halloween decorations here. It looks like a haunted house at Halloween, okay? And then you're always like, well, it's the same thing with Christmas. You're like, well, what are we buying? I'm like, we don't need to buy anything. Everything's here. We have all the decorations.
So for Christmas, it's even more nuts because I decorate the inside of the house.
Yeah. You decorate the inside for Halloween.
I decorate the foyer, the entryway, even though we don't have we're never here for the trick-or-treaters, for me to open the door and show them what's in the foyer. But for Christmas, I decorate our living room. I call it our Christmas room. One year, I made it a gingerbread house. Do you remember that?
I do.
Remember when I hung 250 lights along the walls?
I do. It's like sleeping in Santa's workshop.
Can we get a 12-foot ladder this year?
No. For what? Hanging lights?
A 15-foot ladder?
We don't need any more ladders. We have a 6-foot ladder that's adequate for gutter installation of lights.
Can we rent a scissor lift?
I'm going to move on to our question of the week.
Talk about killing someone's dreams.
Yeah, killing some. Well, just to be clear, Sam has crippled my hobby horse dream. She made me return my hobby horse and said that I was not going to be able to compete at an elite level. And that dream's dead now. And that's very upsetting. And Sam's eating gummy bears during the podcast for some reason. Just having a little snack over there.
Do what I want, bro.
So I thought of this question a solid 30 seconds before we started the podcast because I hadn't thought about it all
I'm
week.
not taking my shirt off.
That's not a question.
That's not the question?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. So this is kind of you're gonna hate this one. What are you doing over there?
I swallowed it whole and then I burped.
Is this your first time eating food? All right, Jesus.
Oh wait. Did you smell me burp in the movies last night?
I did not smell you, but no.
I let one rip, and I tried to keep it opposite of you, and I think the guy in front of me smelled it because he turned around.
Did you blow it on him?
Okay, go ahead. What's your question?
On a different note, we did go see Twisters last night. We haven't been to the movie theater
Since Maverick.
Yeah, I think a couple years. We went and saw Maverick. So the only thing we really go see is like big action movies. But I want to rant about this for just a moment, if I could, because we were so angry. So back years ago, I mean, when we didn't have kids and stuff, we'd go see movies like every weekend. We'd just go pick a movie and go watch it.
That we would look at the movie times and figure out when this movie ended so we can sneak in and watch this movie. I mean, we were just dedicated. We didn't pay for them, but we loved going to go see a movie. We didn't pay for every movie.
Great. FBI is on their way. But we used to go watch a movie pretty much every weekend. But
every Sunday, yeah.
Previews used to be 10 minutes. Now, I don't know if anyone's been to a movie lately. The movie's supposed to start at 6:35. There was 15 minutes of just commercials, like what they used to play before the movie started. There was always like filler commercials, like an AT&T commercial, or like a car commercial. It's just random. So the movie 6:35 starts. Those commercials that we're playing just continue for 15 more minutes before the previews start, and then the previews run for 15 minutes. The movie didn't start for 30 minutes until after it's at 6:35. It started at 7:05, and we're just like cranky old people, I guess. But I was like, gee, is the movie gonna come on, or is this just like? And that's why we've gotten to where we
just wait until we can stream it. I'll rent it, or I'll pay the $30 to. If it's one that we know that we may like, we'll go ahead and buy it when it comes out. If it's one we're not quite sure about, we'll rent it for the $15.99 because by the end of the day, we get off cheaper because it's only one $15.99 instead of 4 tickets. There's already popcorn here, there's already candy here, and there's already drinks here, and we're sitting in our pajamas on the couch.
And you can pause it and get up, but it's wild that I said this last night. I would be shocked if movie theaters are around in 10 years because it's just I don't know. And then we moved seats because the lights didn't go down. The movie was on for 10 minutes and there was a light because we were sitting on the aisle. It was just beaming down and I was like, it's not even dark in here.
And if you've seen it, it's kind of a dark movie because it's storms or storm chasing. So it's dark because it's always raining and there's always tornadoes. So having a light on right above you, and we both have astigmatism, so having that light was blurring. So we ended up having to move to the other side of the theater. It was just
I told Sam I think it's a safety thing because there was one on at the front where we were sitting and then one on in the back. But then they have all the little walkway lights and stuff. And I'm just because when we watch a movie here at the house, we turn all the lights off, so it's pitch black in the room other than the TV.
Yeah. But
I don't know. Right. That sidetracked the question, but I totally forgot about that. It was just it was annoying. So you're not going to like this at all, but I'm going to ask it anyway because this is what I thought of. If you had to be a soldier in any war, what would it be?
World War II.
Really? That's a rough one.
I would fucking charge that beach like a beast.
So that would be at the bottom of my list of wars to participate in. That seems wild. like those dudes, like the D-Day, like Jesus. But I don't know. I was thinking something like the Gulf War or like something that didn't really last that long. You know, it was like 12 minutes. Maybe, no, definitely not Vietnam.
What's the movie, Jarhead?
Yeah, like where he's like I didn't get to shoot anybody. He's like mad about it. He's like all that training, or maybe this past like the Afghanistan stuff, but like not Vietnam, not World War II, not World War One. Those are rough times.
No, I would have charged the beach, or I would have worked on a destroyer.
The old school like way of like lining up and just shooting at each other in a field, and then
letting them shoot back at you while you reload.
I'm like, every time like we watch The Patriot and they're reloading, I'm like, why don't they lay down while they're reloading? They stand up and they're just like, all right, let me pour some like.
Why don't they have shields like the Vikings?
I was like, I think I would lay down while reloading instead of just standing in a perfect line. Like you're making it.
Watch any of the Viking stuff. When they're reloading their arrows, they all set up the shields, and they're all in that little circle, and they let them up, and then they move the one shield, and they get to shoot them up. I mean, why didn't we think about that during World War?
I don't know, like any of them. I mean, I was like, I hope that's not how they actually did it. At least take a knee, get a little bit lower. You're just giving them a large target to shoot at, but...
Can I have my one old man rant before you start in on what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, in recent weeks, we have redid our flower bed. And our flower bed in our front yard is ginormous. And there's no way to shorten it because the way our front walkway to our front door is, like... Oh, I've counted it. It's 10 feet or more, or 15 feet from the wall to the sidewalk in one spot. And then it goes around and it narrows and then it opens up again. So literally the sidewalk all the way around is 68 feet.
It's a lot.
I know this because I bought a bunch of border to keep the mulch inside of the flower bed.
It's not easy to keep the weeds out. But Sam got like the black tarp and stuff and like worked on it.
The black tarp's in over half of it, so that's good. So the other half, there's not usually a lot of weeds that grow in it. I think because it doesn't get enough sunlight and I don't know, but it doesn't get a bunch of weeds right there by the front door. But here's my rant. Lowe's has a red mulch. I'm okay with buying cheap because it's mulch. I'm going to have to lay it down every year, if not twice a year.
And it fades.
Because it fades.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a thing against red. They're like, red's ugly, it's tacky, it's cheap, blah, 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 whatever.
I want to...
Excuse me, sir?
You can't share gummy bears?
Joey doesn't share.
I just want one. God. Go ahead. Thanks.
Anyways. So they have this mulch that you can get online. It's like $1.68 a bag. But then they have another one that's like $2.98 a bag.
It's getting serious, guys.
It's constantly sold out.
Oh.
They even have the bay at the store, and it says sold out. Then I go driving through our neighborhood. And there are these lunatics that I call mulch hoarders that go and buy 6, 8, 10, 15 bags. There's one house around the corner. I'll show you tomorrow. We will go on a drive. They have probably 20 bags that have been sitting out in front of their house since last summer.
Get them, Karen.
Their house is overgrown with weeds. They don't edge. They don't cut their grass. They don't do anything to their lawn.
You're giving off real Karen vibes right now.
And they've got all this mulch just sitting in their front driveway, and it's been there for months. And it's the cheap kind. I had to buy 25 bags at $3.98 yesterday.
I want to tell you what happened.
Or whatever
this is what happened at that house. I got this figured out. All right. So the husband refuses to do the mulch. So the wife goes, I'm just going to go buy it then. Because she's been nagging him to go get it. So she went and bought it. And now they're having a standoff where he's refusing to put it out. And she's like, the mulch is out there. You don't have an excuse now.
That's fine. Can they have an estate sale so I can buy it for cheap?
I mean, you could go knock
like
on the...
50 cents a bag. It's been sitting there for too long. I got to dry it out.
So you're upset because you can't get mulch at
Because
Lowe's.
I have to buy the full price good mulch because everyone keeps buying the cheap mulch. I can't even get it delivered to the house. I even looked at that. I was like, hell, I'll pay the $50 fee because I have to stand around and wait for someone to load it for me anyways and give them a tip, so I might as well just pay for the delivery guy. But then I was like, no, because then they're just going to dump it and then have to shovel it.
I'm sorry, you're really going through these trials and tribulations of adult life. The flower bed looks great, though. All right, are you ready? Sam doesn't love this topic, but I do.
Because it's so serious, and I don't want to be serious.
This is the granddaddy of all conspiracy. I'll just move this over here so people can. I mean, you can grab that chair and do it. We're going to talk a little bit about the JFK assassination here.
I can't even get on my phone because we're using my phone to record.
I mean, you can go if you want. Me and the viewers.
What am I going to do? I don't have my phone.
I don't know. Whatever.
How am I going to find Halloween decorations without my phone?
I don't know. Just listen. I've yacked Sam's ear off about this since we started dating, probably. Okay. So, I've watched God knows how many documentaries, movies, read books, listened to podcasts, listened to documentaries. So there is so much to unpack about this. I'm going to try to stick to like the more obvious stuff that I've seen rather than just the crazy conspiracy stuff. So I got some notes here. Okay, she's going to put her feet up. Most people know, like, the Warren Commission was a group that put together, like, the evidence to try to prove or disprove who did it. So they came to the conclusion that it was just Oswald. So a couple things about that. Like, initially, they said that there was they were investigating to see if there was two shooters. That was the goal. But then they kind of steered it toward being more. You okay? Maybe you sit still.
Okay.
Do you need to go and I'll just do this?
No, I'm sorry. My hand slipped and it slammed into the side of the table. Son of a nutcracker.
All right. So, Warren Commission, a lot of people have gone against that for years just because there are so many witnesses that were either not included, not interviewed, not talked to about what they saw. So the notes that I have, and I've pieced this together through a bunch of different stuff over months and months, just trying to take notes. One of the podcasts I do want to kind of give a shout out to, this is on Spotify. It's called Solving JFK. This dude goes through, I mean, so much stuff, like episode by episode. I mean, it's 20, 30, I don't know how many episodes he's got, but I've listened to most of them and some of them a couple times because there's so much information in them. But he broke down a ton of stuff. So I pulled a lot of stuff from that, just some of the stuff like with the witnesses and stuff. But they reported that there was 33 witnesses that reported to the Warren Commission that the shots came from the grassy knoll. Okay? So a lot of those people, their testimony and everything, they had statements and stuff, and then they weren't included in that. So that's a big red flag. I am going to put this picture in the podcast. So if you are squeamish, this is a JFK autopsy photo. The initial report states that he was shot in the back, and then the bullet came out of his throat, and that's the throat wound. And then, or actually, the first shot missed entirely because there was a guy that it hit a curb and hit a guy. It was a bystander that was watching the parade. So they said the first shot missed entirely. The second shot went through his back, came out his throat, and then the third shot hit him in the head. Okay.
The second shot's the magic bullet?
The second shot is the magic bullet. So if you've seen the movie JFK with Kevin Costner, that's the one where he shows it, and it comes through.
It ricochets off bones. I didn't know bullets could do that. Yeah,
it went through his back, throat, hit the governor like in the ribs, and then it hit his left wrist, shattered his wrist, and then deflected and went the bullet trajectory is just all over the place. Originally, they did not know that the first shot missed entirely. So the original reports and stuff that they were putting together was that one hit him in the back. Governor Conley, the guy sitting in front of him, got hit, and then he got hit in the head. And then they had to amend it because once you take away if you take away that there was more than 3 bullets, there can only be one shooter. Because he only had enough time to get off 3 shots. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't enough time for him to get off a 4th shot, and they didn't want there to, for whatever reason, to be a second shooter, which is the most obvious thing. So I'm going to post this picture in the podcast, and I'm going to show you. This is the autopsy picture. So this is the bullet hole that they say entered his back. Okay? All right.
Where's his head?
That's his head right there.
Okay. Oh, okay, now I see. Okay.
So that's his head, and that's his back. It's on his, like, below his trap.
It's like in the spine.
Okay.
It's centered.
It's off center. So like that,
but it's
I think that's
enough.
that's his spine. The biggest thing is if Oswald shot him from above, that bullet hit him so low, there's no way for it to come out of his throat. Okay, it like the trajectory, and if it had, it would have just continued into the floor. But that's kind of the first piece that it doesn't make sense. When they did the autopsy, and there's a ton of stuff about the autopsy that has holes in it, and it's like, well, if you're watching like the JFK movie with Costner, they go into all this, but like they directed the autopsy and all that, but like they said that they would not let them track the bullet wounds. They said typically, like when an autopsy's done, they'll take like an instrument and try to track through and see where the bullet went.
Because not all bullets are exit wounds.
Right. So they said that like the depth, like, and this is like the doctors and stuff reporting it, they said the depth of that wound in his back was just
like a finger. Yeah.
They said like you couldn't even get like your finger past a certain depth. And he said this is a very shallow wound. So I don't think that bullet came out of his throat. And there's another report. There's a Secret Service agent that reported finding a bullet in the back seat, which is not included in a lot of stuff. There's the one on the gurney that they found that's supposed to be the magic bullet. That's not the one. There's a separate report of a.
The one they found on the gurney wasn't even shot, or it was shot, but it's super clean.
It's not messed up at all, and it's supposed to have gone through his back, his throat, Conley's. It shattered. It hit his rib, then his wrist,
like the bullet
and then
all messed
and
up.
it just looks. It looks like you took the top of a bullet and just twisted it off.
Wait, so it's not off topic. It's about bullets. But I found this girl the other day who makes jewelry out of bullets.
Yeah.
And she shoots them underwater.
Mm-hmm.
So to see what it looks like when it's shot underwater and doesn't hit anything, and it actually stops and slows down, and it peels itself back into like basically it looks like a flower. There's no way that bullet would look like that.
Well, there's a difference in like a full metal jacket and a regular bullet, but you would expect there to be some flattening of it. I mean, when a bullet hits bone, it'll still misshape or flatten or bend. This bullet's super clean. And I don't want to go too long on this because there's, like I said, the more and more you look into this, what about this? There's just question after question after question. But there's a question of the chain of custody. When they found the bullet and who the guy at the hospital gave it to this guy, gave it to this guy, gave it to the FBI. And they said, like, there's not initials on it. Some guy said that's not how the bullet looked when I found it. Like, there's all this stuff that goes into it. But the bigger piece is most of the doctors at Parkland Hospital said that the throat wound was an entrance wound. If you can Google the autopsy photos and find them online. They said that the throat wound was an entrance wound. I mean, there's recordings of these guys. Like, you want to dive into YouTube or that Solving JFK, that guy's got a ton of audio on there. But there's the doctors where they've been interviewed and said they initially thought that was an entrance wound. And that's where they did the tracheotomy. So they cut open his throat, made it bigger so they could get an airway going.
They did that so you can't trace that it was an entryway.
Well, I mean, I don't want to speculate the doctors were in on it, but that's why in the autopsy photos it's like it's real open because they took a razor and cut it open to put a tube in. We're trying to get air to him.
Well, but they could have planned that in the fact that knowing that if they sent him in like that and they were trying to save him. I don't know, because you can't predict that they didn't know the back of his head was missing. Well, but how do you not know the back of someone's head's missing?
Well, that's what I want to play this. So this was I showed you this the other night, but I want to play it again.
I know, but you show me a lot of stuff.
I know, it's so much. So I want to play this, and I'll dub it in. It's from that Solving JFK. This is from one of the Parkland doctors who was at Kennedy's head when they brought him in. So,
which, by the way, is a movie.
Yeah, let me start it over.
And Dr. Baxter do the tracheostomy and the exploration of this wound.
There wasn't a doctor in the room who was probably closer to that massive head wound than you.
No. In fact, when I went and stood in that position, the first thing that kind of exclaimed out of my mouth was, I said, "My God, have you seen the back of his head? It's gone." And Dr. Carrico said, "No, we just got here just ahead of you, and we haven't had time to look at anything except this wound in his neck." And I said, "Well, the back of his brain, the back half of his brain is gone." And as I stood there, just as I said that, the right half of the cerebellum, the back part of the brain, fell out of that massive wound in the back of his head onto the cart. So this was...
So, I mean, these are the doctors at Parkland Hospital. All of them said that the back right part of his head was missing. Nurses, doctors, I mean, there's statement, the further in you dive, you can't find somebody saying otherwise. I've tried. You can't find anybody saying that. So my thoughts are this, and I kind of wrote this up. I think that there was a second shooter on the grassy knoll behind the fence. That's the most common. I want to dispel this real quick. All the other, like, I've heard some of these rumors are, what do you do?
I'm going to text her.
The other rumors, the Umbrella Man having a gun. I've heard people say that the Secret Service agent in the car shot him. That another Secret Service agent shot him. None of that makes any sense. There's literally no way the Jackie Kennedy and the other two people in the car wouldn't have seen that or reported, like, anything other than there being multiple shooters doesn't make any sense, and it's just BS. Like, I've heard there's a guy in a storm drain or a manhole cover popped up. None of that. Like, there's a guy behind the fence. Okay. So this is my belief on it. The first shot, and I don't believe Oswald was the shooter. I think he was in the building, but I think he was set up by somebody else. He may have let the guy in, but the CIA was working Oswald and basically pretending he was a spy of some sort to get him to be the patsy. So I wrote this up the other day. So first shot from the guy in the back, and whether this was intentional or not, they may have been doing this to make Oswald look like a bad shot because he was. The first shot misses entirely. It hits the curb and reflects and hits the guy like in the cheek. It's a guy that was like interviewed. The second shot, and a lot of the people that reported this, like everyone says there was 3 shots. I've heard reports of witnesses say there was 8 shots, 10 shots. Like, I mean, it was rapid fire right on top of each other. So that shot goes off. The second shot, and that's in the Zapruder film, hit him in the throat from the grassy knoll. That's the first one that hit him. And that guy had the best line of sight. So you can see in the video, he reaches up and grabs his throat and like leans over toward Jackie. The third shot, I think that's the one that hit him in the back. So I think as he got hit in the throat, you can see in the video, he kind of leans forward like this. I think the third shot hits him in the back. For whatever reason, from what I've heard, they didn't x-ray him. I don't know why that bullet didn't go through or come out. but they didn't let them track the course of the bullets to find
Yeah.
out. Like everything in the autopsy that they would normally do
Just pointed to one
was stopped. No, don't investigate that. Don't look into that. All right. So the fourth shot, I believe, is the shot that hit Conley. So I think that's another. So there was 3 shots from the book depository. Mm-hmm. First one missed. The second one hit him in the back. And then the third shot hit the governor. So the guy up in the book depository, whether it was Oswald or not, or a guy, he wasn't very accurate. So at that point, JFK's turn, and then he hits Conley, and that bullet actually goes through, does the wrist, hits him in the leg, all that stuff. And then the kill shot, which would be the 5th shot, came from the grassy knoll and hit him in the front. And that's that obligatory, like JFK, like back into the left, back into the left.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, too, I've read and seen and heard on different stuff. People, in the Zapruder film, you can see it looks like the top half kind of blows off. And we talked about this the other night, and you kind of said, there's no way. A lot of people believe that tape was doctored somewhat. They didn't doctor the back into the left, though, which is odd. Because that's the biggest like damning point of it, is that it hit him back. And people say, well, your body does. It doesn't. If you get hit with a bullet, you go backwards. You go the way the bullet hits you. You don't get shot from the front or from behind and go like this. That's not a normal reaction to getting hit with a bullet.
What did your chiefs teach you in paramedic school?
Yeah, I was a EMT and a firefighter, and he one of the paramedic. He was an older guy, teacher. He said, and this isn't always true because the people do survive.
Yeah, people do
but
survive.
he said unless you get shot in the parking lot of the hospital, you're probably not going to survive. Which is not true.
If you got shot in the chest,
it depends on what caliber and stuff.
Yeah,
but like, I mean, you get shot in the ankle, you're probably going to be.
But
okay.
I mean, that was the case with Kennedy.
Yeah, he was dead the second that bullet hit him in the head, and he probably wouldn't have made it to the hospital
and back
being
then,
shot in the throat.
I mean, there's stories of people that get like a nail in the head, or like they get shot in the head and somehow they survive and they're okay. Yeah. But back then, getting rushed to the hospital, they wouldn't know what to do with a bullet wound to the head. They wouldn't know. They didn't have the specialists.
Well, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, a bullet explodes, and you can go online. There's a ton of videos where they've recreated shooting like I don't want to say like they're not fake skulls, but it's
they can model.
It's got gel and stuff to make it seem
like a brain, like in a skull.
And when you shoot a bullet in, it just explodes out the back. Yeah. There's also while I'm thinking about this, I want to talk about it, but in a lot of the reports and the witnesses, they say that the car almost came to a complete stop after the first shot. And there's speculation that the Secret Service was slowing down to allow it to happen. But in the Zapruder film, it all looks like one thing, and that's where some of the conspiracy stuff comes in, that film was edited and they chopped out frames of it to make it. They chopped out the stopping part, so it looks like it's just continuously moving at a certain speed. But there's a ton of witnesses that say the car basically stopped in the middle of the road or came down to 2 miles an hour where it's supposed to be kind of pulling away. I want to touch on this list real quick. I wrote down some notes. These were witnesses. Gordon Arnold. This was a guy, he was told to move off the grassy knoll by somebody saying they were a Secret Service agent, and he was 3 foot from the fence. So there was a guy up on the grassy knoll before the shooting and after the shooting saying he was a Secret Service agent, and he told the guy, he said, you can't be up here, you got to move down. Well, why? First of all, why would you need to move?
Yeah.
There's people all over the place. Why can't you stand right here by this fence? Second of all, the Secret Service said they had no men on the grounds. There was no men other than the people with the car. Mm-hmm. There weren't men patrolling and walking around, moving people around and stuff. They didn't do that back then. So, so he said this. This was the guy. This is a huge piece, but he said the guy moved him, so he moved further down the hill. He said he heard a shot go by his head. He hit the ground, and then he heard a second shot go over him. And the guy's got like a written testimony, written statement. He said he heard it go by him, by his left. I think it was his left ear. He said he jumped to the ground, and then he heard another shot come over him. So that was boom, boom, like the neck shot, and then the head shot.
See, I told you, episode 13. Lucky.
You don't think so?
Nope.
Kyle's broken now.
Kyle's broken. You stopped recording halfway through. You forgot to plug that in. You forgot to press.
Kyle, come on, buddy.
Give mouth to mouth.
There it goes. Get Kyle back up.
I already took the Halloween stuff down because I thought we were done.
All right, guys. So sorry about that. So what happened? We went to stop it and
See what happened.
And ran out of storage. So we chopped off like the last 20 minutes of stuff here. So we're going to try to pick up here. I'm going to just pick up because I watched and I'll edit it in. So Sam's already heard all this, so she's going to look super bored, but that's all right. So Ed Hoffman, that was the guy on the overpass where they drove under. Mm-hmm. He said that he saw two men behind the fence on the grassy knoll. He said he saw a man in a suit bend down and pick something up, saw a puff of smoke, and then saw the man that shot run to the other man and toss him what looked like a rifle. And it said the man broke it down, you disassemble it, put it in a bag, and walked out of the train yard, with the bag. It said then the man in the suit went back to the fence and was confronted by a police officer. He showed him an ID, and the police officer let him go. The police officer, there's also a statement from him where he confronted the guy and said that it was a Secret Service agent. And the Secret Service has come out and said that there was nobody patrolling the grounds. The only Secret Service agents were the guys with the vehicles or in the cars. They didn't have agents. Back then, they didn't have snipers and counter snipers and guys just lingering around
women trying to figure out how to put their guns back in the holsters.
Don't open that can of worms.
See, now I'm 3 beers deep.
Yeah. So yeah, I was gonna say, Sam drank through the end of the last one, so get ready. Try not to derail me here too much, so we can get through it. But the officer said that he saw a Secret Service agent too. The man was told by his uncle, who was a cop, not to say anything, that it wasn't safe. He finally went to the police in 1967 to give a statement, and the FBI just determined that it was not needed for the investigation.
1967.
Yeah. So, Tom Tilson was an off-duty police officer on his way, I guess, to try to Sam, whether he was stuck in traffic or whatever, didn't really say. But he saw a man sliding down the hill on the west side of the railroad tracks, threw a bag into a car, and drove away. Which, at the time, probably, because he didn't know Kennedy was shot yet, but it would have probably raised some concerns. Like, as you're driving, you see some guy sliding down a hill with a bag, and then, that's weird. But then after the fact, he probably thought about it and said, oh. So the theory is that was the guy with the gun getting out of there. And it was parked, on the back side where he could just get out of there. J.C. Price was a guy that worked in a building there, looking down on the thing, whatever the road, that goes by. He said he saw a man running with something in his hands that he thought looked like a large radio, like the old time call it in an airstrike, bring the rain, one of those things. Right, one of those. Mm-hmm. And he said that he saw him in the rail yard with that, but the FBI also determined he didn't have anything worth providing to the Warren Commission. He did say that he heard 5 shots, not 3, and there's a lot of people that claim way more than 3 shots. I can't remember if I mentioned that earlier, but a lot of people stated, like there's people that said that there was 7, 8 shots. I mean, there is an echo, but I think the shots came so close from the front and back, it may have sounded like an echo, and there was just, I think there was 5 shots at least. The guy Orville Nix, he filmed from the opposite side of where the Zapruder film came from. He turned his film in, and the FBI, or I guess it was Secret Service back then, gathered as much of the footage. They were snatching cameras from people left and right. He said that when he got it back, it looked like it had been altered, and that's not what he saw. He said the original footage was never returned. He got a copy of his footage back. So he also claimed, and this is on record, he said that he claims that he saw the shots come from behind the fence. So there's people that say, well, it would show up. Well, I mean, they did have some ability to alter film and photos back then, how primitive it was, but there was ability to alter things at that point. James Tague was the guy that got hit with the ricochet from the first shot that hit the curb and hit him in the cheek. He was down, I think he was under the overpass, kind of standing like where they were going to drive by. There's like a divider. But he said he claimed that he saw the shots come from the fence because he was facing, the car coming this way and could see the shots. So there's also a lot of people that state that they heard or saw shots come from the fence, and a lot of people claim they saw smoke or a muzzle flash from behind the fence. So, I mean, these are people that are on the ground, and none of this is included in the Warren Commission. They just, if it didn't fit with their Oswald, one guy shooter thing, then it just didn't get included. Lee Bowers was the guy that worked in the rail yard. He said he saw 2 cars pulling in before the shooting, kind of circling around. He said they were both covered in mud. I don't know why that always gets brought up, but they were both very dirty cars. And then he said he saw 2 men at the fence prior to the shooting, saw a flash of light when the shooting was happening.
Didn't the CIA used to take people out to like the...
Oh, I don't know. I mean, take care of stuff. Pew-pew. But he was later mysteriously killed in an auto accident. And I showed Sam there's a list of people. There's a rumored like 120 people.
You texted it to yourself, that one right there.
Yeah, that went missing or committed suicide or
natural death,
had an auto accident. There's a lot of suicides. It's the whole Epstein thing, but this site lists, it says 120 individuals have suffered highly coincidental or convenient deaths. People that, just normal people that just all of a sudden just decided to kill themselves because they had information.
People that were loved and had perfectly good lives.
Yeah, and it lists off a bunch of these, so you can dive into, if you want to Google like mysterious deaths around Kennedy assassination, you can go down a rabbit hole there that will keep you reading. I mean, there's
what did you say in the last podcast 20 minutes ago that didn't record? What did you tell the CIA or tell the audience?
No. At the end I said this. I said, just as a heads up, I'm not suicidal.
Neither am I.
My car works great.
So
my brakes
mine.
are fine, and we are not heroin addicts or anything like that.
Nope.
So just to, not that they're coming after us for, but I mean, and that's my belief. And we talked about this in the last one before it got cut off. But Donald Trump brought this up, and he said, and they were questioning him about the information with the files, and he said, if you knew what I know, you wouldn't want it released either. Meaning it's the government's involved. I mean, that's the only thing that I could take away from it, because it, like I said, I personally believe it was CIA or FBI involved in it, and it would cripple, because we talked about like
I think it would cripple the United States if we knew
the government was assassinating people
about the government. I feel like
presidents, and that's a lot of stuff's come up with the Trump stuff, where they're saying
he's done stuff.
How high up does that go with who tried to kill him? We'll be talking about that for the next 20 years or 30 years or who knows how long. But the fact that it's been so secretive and so covered up and they won't release the documents, why? Everyone's dead that was involved. Why wouldn't you release them?
Because the agency that did it is still thriving and going.
And Kennedy was trying to get rid of the CIA. That was one of the big things.
They were looking into him and his dad and his uncles in their family business and the mob.
There's so much you could go down. The reasons behind it are insane.
Teamsters. It was the Teamsters?
He pissed off. There's a rumor that the mob helped Kennedy get elected initially. They had a bunch of, typical Democratic stuff, but they had a bunch of dead people help vote for him. I think it was in Chicago, to win the election because it was a close race.
But it was Robert Kennedy that went after.
And then Bobby, when he gets in office, he makes Bobby the Attorney General, and Bobby goes after the mob. So it pissed them off. I don't think it was the mob. I think it was...
I don't think it was the mob that killed JFK.
I think it was more... I'm sure they didn't like it.
I think the mob and the CIA had something going, and they didn't want that exposed. The FBI, CIA was probably feeding and helping the mob and whatever they were doing in New York and Chicago.
They've always been involved in stuff, so...
See, now you got a couple of beers in me. Now I'm talking about it.
Yeah, now you were quiet on the last 20 minutes of the other one. Now you're over here throwing out theories about stuff.
But are they bad theories or are they good ones?
No.
Am I on par?
Yeah. The other thing, and I mentioned this, but the autopsy photos, the two doctors that did the initial autopsy, which that's a whole nother can of worms of why it wasn't done in Texas and why it was at a military base done by Navy doctors who had no experience doing autopsies, doing an autopsy on an assassinated president. But anyway, they said that the two doctors that were there doing it, the photographer that was taking the pictures of the autopsy and the girl that developed the film, all stated that that's not what they saw. The photos that we have that are the autopsy photos aren't there. The two doctors, and it goes the two guys that did the autopsy, the guys at Parkland, everybody, they all say the back of his head was missing. The autopsy photos, it's not. So even the photographer that took the pictures said that it was missing. And then the girl that developed them, obviously she looked at them like, why wouldn't you? But she said that also that the film that it was developed on isn't the same. It's not the same type of film or the same type of paper that she used. So I was like, well, maybe that could potentially be, where they've copied them or whatever. But she developed them, and those were supposed to be the originals. And she said, our company only use, I think it was Kodak. We only use Kodak. These were on something different. She said, we've never used that paper in our lab, and they're supposed to be the original photos. The other piece was like they didn't weigh any of the organs or anything like that. They didn't track the bullet paths at the autopsy. And then his actual brain, they didn't weigh that, which is a huge piece of evidence because...
his brain was missing.
There's photos of a brain in the National Archives, which from what I've heard, you cannot... It may be online. I couldn't find it. I did a quick search, didn't dive too deep. But they say that if you go to the National Archives, you can view the pictures of the brain, and it looks almost intact. Like there's, very little damage to it. But the actual brain itself, which is supposed to be housed in the National Archives, is missing now. They've lost JFK's brain. It's not there. So it seems very odd that wouldn't be something that's kept pretty secure,
Shane Gillis. What are we doing with these
Shane Gillis in it. I don't know. It's very strange, but the mortician that did his stuff said that there was a bullet hole in the front too.
Yeah.
And there's people. This is all stuff like I could dive down this. There's so many other conspiracy and different things we could talk about, and if you guys want me to dive into this more in the comments, let me know, because I can do like like a midweek, a short episode on certain things. If you guys want me to talk about it, I will, because I find it all very interesting, and I've looked into all of the different stuff a lot.
Should you and I take a long weekend trip to DC?
I would rather go to Dallas. I would like to see where it happened more than DC.
But we can go to the National Archives in DC.
Yeah.
You can go to the cemetery.
There's so much there. I mean, people have set up, and
you can put those pictures in for the podcast where we went in DC. Yeah. So I got to go to DC last year. Yeah, it was this time last year.
Yep.
Mr. Flip. We got to go for safety patrols, so it was pretty fun. We got to go. We saw the burial of JFK, Jackie, and Robert Kennedy.
Yep. I said this the other day, we were talking, and this will absolutely never happen. I personally would like to see his body exhumed and analyzed. You
didn't say it on the last recording.
No, but I told you that the other night. Like, we were talking, and I said, hey, you really want to get to the bottom of it, you exhume his body. And really do...
It may not be his body.
Well... If it was embalmed, it should be in decent shape still, to where they could, with our technology between MRI machines, X-rays, things like that, they'd be able to piece together a lot. It's never going to happen just because of the respect of him.
Here's another conspiracy. Maybe I'm the only one that thinks is morbid in my head, but do you really think that that's his body down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that would open up another can of worms. I mean, if it wasn't,
Who would know?
Well, I mean, if you're embalmed, your body doesn't decay. I mean, like, they've pulled guys out of the ground that have been embalmed, but they were done properly 30, 40 years later.
But you don't know. Like, yes, they may have taken... We can talk about this offline.
What? To swap him or something? I mean,
they could have swapped it. And they got rid of the evidence. He's full-blown evidence. His body is full-blown of evidence.
But they knew...
They were going to get rid of it.
They know that you're not going to exhume an assassinated president.
They exhume soldiers.
I mean, they've done, like, murder victims and stuff like that. There's just so many things that, like, I mean, it would never, and the Kennedys would have to sign off on it, which they wouldn't do.
There's not that many of them left.
There's a bunch of them. Those people breed like rabbits. They all had 8 kids, and each kid had 8 kids. Those Catholics are like...
What's happening with the one Kennedy that was running undecided? Or
Bobby's son?
Yeah.
He's still running.
Is he going to be on the ballot?
Yeah. Well, there's certain states that were trying to keep him off, but he's running. You
can't keep a presidential elective off the ballot.
There's certain rules with how they're polling and stuff where they can keep him off, so you can't just put random people on it. But his biggest thing is he disassociated with the Democratic Party. And
the Democratic Party
he's a little bit too extreme for the Republicans, so he's in that independent land where nobody's you got to be with one of the parties. So his only shot would be to try to realign with the Democrats in the coming, after the next 4 years and see. But at that point, I don't know how old he is. He's in great shape, but is he going to be in a good spot to run in 4 years?
But the Democratic Party that was in the 50s and 60s, it's not the same.
No,
Democratic Party
it's drastically
that it is
different.
now.
It's drastically different.
It's
like Johnson. Johnson was like a Southern redneck racist, and he was a Democrat.
Yeah.
Like would never be a Democrat now. A racist Democrat from Texas with like everything about Johnson is not what the Democratic Party is now.
You can edit this out, but I feel like now we're just talking about politics.
Okay, well we can. I mean, I don't care either way. Like I think most of the government, both sides, are highly corrupt. So I'm pulling strong for zombie apocalypse, and let's just kind of
robots are coming. Terminator is coming.
I feel like I'd rather fight zombies than.
I don't want to fight the robots. So
robots are scary.
Yeah.
I can shoot a zombie.
Smart.
Yeah, I don't like. I've seen if one of them can do as much damage as Arnold, then I don't want to fight like 1,000 of them.
Well, Jackson asked me the other day. He's like, "So, how do we stop AI?" And I said, "You just don't create AI. He said, well, no, we just don't teach it something. I said, AI is supposed to be smart enough that it teaches itself.
Yeah, it's learning on its own.
And he said, well, why don't we stop teaching it? I said, you can't stop teaching it because now it has access to all of everything. By the way, Camille learned how to explain AI. I've heard your speech. You sound stupid. But AI is literally learning from everything. You can't make it stop learning. It's connected itself to all of our wide.
Have you heard about the guy? I want to say it's the Chat GPT founder, the guy that does like where you can type in and ask it. Like we've messed with it before.
Oh.
He has a backpack he carries with him at all times that is a self-destruct for the AI.
Are you joking?
I'm not even kidding. This has been talked about before, like on other stuff, and I've
never heard of this.
He has a backpack he constantly carries with him, and it has where he can. I'm assuming it's some kind of laptop where he can kill it, and it'll destroy their servers and shut it down.
Did he create it?
Yeah, he's one of the creators of it. Yeah,
creators of AI.
Yeah, so he's got it's like a
he's like a kill switch.
like a nuclear football. You talk about the president having like the brief, but this is a kill switch for AI that he carries with him everywhere.
Where
he
is
goes.
this guy at, and is he heavily guarded?
He's a billionaire, I'm sure. So he's probably got, I don't know, but I'll do some research on it. We can talk about it next week.
Let's talk about that guy next week.
I'll bring it up next. I'll find some photos.
I didn't know
of
that.
It. Yeah, I saw it. I was like, that's wild.
But I just thought it was funny. Jack, he was like, well, just make it stop learning. Like, once you connect it.
If it's on the internet, that's the thing.
It doesn't stop.
That's what people are scared about is, can you shut it down?
Have you not seen the movies out there that once it's connected, like Lucy?
Yeah. If it infiltrates every server on the planet.
Once it's connected, it learns and pulls it. Just like the freaking Transformers.
Well, the scary thing is to shut it down. And we're getting into like a whole other thing. But to shut it down, you would almost have to do like a nationwide EMP that shut down all electronics. That's almost worse.
And then rebuild.
Because if we don't have
internet,
we would descend.
We would go.
It's not internet and phones. It's not having water.
Oh.
Not having food, not having the ability to pump gas to get food to grocery stores, not having refrigeration. Our world would descend into chaos in a matter of a week without electricity in the country. There would literally be riots and shit. I mean, it would just be absolute madness. If you shut down our country and we didn't have power for a week, it would be absolute chaos. Like, we don't have a week worth of food here. You go to the grocery store, I mean, you might could survive, but you would literally have to go to the grocery store the day it happened with an assault rifle and get what you could.
We're not that close.
You have the gas in your car. You take the gas in your car and get up there and get what you could get, and all the people that are anti-gun would be in a bad predicament.
This is what's going to be
because I have a lot of guns on me, getting all the food I can get. I'd just probably back your Tahoe into the grocery store chip aisle.
Chips. That's what you
load it up. I don't know. All right, well, let's wrap this thing up. So we went way longer on the JFK stuff in the last thing, but at this point, it's kind of hard to go back. I don't want to keep repeating
what
stuff.
happens when you give your wife beers and then tell her she's got to sit down and do it again?
But like I said, if you guys want to hear more about it, comment or DM us or whatever, and I'll dive into this or any other topics. If you guys want us to talk about any other conspiracy theories or videos,
you guys want
and
to talk about zombies? I'll talk about zombies.
We can. But like message us and comment on the video and say, hey, talk about this, and we'll do some research and look into it and talk about it. So, or
you guys want to talk about back to school shopping, back to school, mom shit, dad shit.
We can talk about fertilizer for the lawn.
Mulch hoarders, because we didn't get to that because that got cut off.
Yeah, we gotta wrap this thing up. It's nacho time. All right, guys. See you next week.